So we're going to take a look today at the value of strategic human resources management. We're joined today by Rilla Moore, one of Australia's most respected and experienced human resources professionals with a 30-year career, including experience in some of Australia's blue chip companies, such as AMP, ANZ, Westpac, and most recently Stockland. Rilla, most CEOs seem to really appreciate the value of strategic human resources management. To what extent has that appreciation grown in the last few years?
Paul, I don't actually think it's increased at all during the last 5 years, sadly. Most CEOs, most organisations will proudly say that people are their greatest asset, but they don't actually do a lot to show that in many ways. And in your profession, you would know that very rarely if ever, have you seen an HR person present at an investor or analyst briefing. They're nowhere to be seen. I'm sure you've never heard an analyst ask a question about how HR works in an organisation. They don't. HR still doesn't always report to the CEO, so how can they take it seriously? HR is still the lowest paid in most of the executive roles that we're in senior teams. So it's just not there. We're still lagging in terms of gender. In fact, we've gone backwards. So perhaps it's the fault of my profession, perhaps it's the fault of the CEOs, but I think they don't actually know what world-class HR is, so therefore don't know what to ask for.
Rilla, how would you describe strategic human resources management, and what sort of value can it deliver for organisations?
Well, it will deliver great value, of course, but strategic HR is dependent on a few things. Firstly, the HR function must report to the CEO and be part of that executive team. Following on from that, the HR person would be contributing to the business strategy, which means, of course, they must be numerate and they must have business acumen. Doesn't always follow. Once there's a business strategy, the HR function would then develop a people strategy, quite clearly. That people strategy would enable the delivery of the business strategy. So it would make sure that you've got the right people in the right place, in the right numbers, doing the right things with the right capability, and they would be rewarded for high performance. They would also have a set of people metrics and measure themselves just like any other part of the business would measure their performance. Then, of course, the value would just follow because the business strategy would be delivered and that would be measurable.
Rilla, what can organisations do to increase the level of strategic human resources management?
Paul, it's a twofold question. The organisation has to do something, but so does the HR profession and the HR function within an organisation. So I think that the board and the CEO have to recognise that this is a very senior role and deserves its position in the top team. I think that the board and the CEO have to be able to recognise and demand world-class HR functions, which means a bit of learning. On the other hand, the HR profession has to lift its game and become strategic, which means being part of the business, having business acumen, being numerate. Then, of course, you need very special people in these roles. You need people who can stand up and be counted, who will challenge the organisation. On the other hand, you want people who are compassionate. Above all, this person has to be trusted within the organisation and they have to be recognised as an outstanding leader. If you do all that, then of course you'll have the answer that you want, more strategic HR, and this would be demonstrated in better business results.
Thanks very much for your time today, Rilla.